So welcome to A Funny Thing Called Business. This is where 4 business owners with over 30 years collective experience under our belts share the capers and triumphs of running a small business and how we now avoid perilous customer chaos and pitfalls. So I'm Clare Whalley. We also have
Darren Langley,
Kate Curry,
Pete Morgan.
Welcome, everybody. I am so pleased we are getting together this month. And here's to sharing with all our listeners. Today, we will be talking about pricing. Now, you may be wondering how are 4 business owners talking about pricing? How is that going to be funny? Well, pricing isn't necessarily funny, but let's see what kind of stories and what we can share with you that can show you how to make it easier to share your pricing with your customers. So that's our aim today for you. So my first question to you lovely people is, what's your favourite story around, or unusual funny example around businesses that you've worked with, or perhaps you as a business owner, when you have talked to customers about pricing?
Well, I'm married to a solicitor, and they know how to price things. They absolutely know. I think the way they do it is they roll 3 dice and then they add a 0 onto the end of it, and that's their hourly rate. And the thing I can never get over is the fact that they break it down. So, it's not like they kind of go, right, that's the hourly rate. So we'll, but we'll break that down into 10-minute sections. So many of them go, right, that's the hourly rate. Well, I spoke to you for about 20 minutes. Yeah, that's an hour. Okay, then. That's fine. Let me just throw money at you. So that's. So I didn't quite go as severe as that, but when I was coming up with kind of rates for my business, I made sure I do have an hourly rate, but I do break it down into 15-minute segments rather than, going, no, I've done something for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm going to charge you the hour.
Yeah. See, I love this subject about pricing because I don't know whether I am more conscious when I'm working, when I'm a customer with other businesses, because I see so many business owners who make, I'm not going to say mistakes, I'm going to call them gaffes and blunders over their pricing. And this has happened to me as a customer in the last couple of months. If you're listening, these lovely business owners who I've been working with, time to take note, because in the last 2 months, I have asked someone their price and I can physically see them going, oh no, please don't ask me about my pricing. They have dropped their price immediately without me even speaking. And the other business owner has said, is that okay? Is that all right? And I'm like, oh, please say your pricing with confidence and then just shut up.
That's it, ultimately. Pricing is a whole confidence battle, really, isn't it? When you're engaged with a client and you're talking about pricing, it's who's got the balls to stand their ground, basically. Yeah, absolutely. I did see recently, though, I was looking at children's farm to take the kids to an animal farm place, like with petting zoos and all whatever. And their pricing was quite straightforward. It was adults were £12, children were £12, family of 4 was £48. So I probably could have done that maths myself. And a family of 6, £72. Like, no need to give a discount for the more people you get in the door, but that's fine. At least it's nice and clear and straightforward. You can't.
Doesn't it depend on their clientele as to who can add up for the family of 4 and 2 people?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Kate, what about you?
Yeah, I've always found pricing really difficult to talk about, and and to get it right as well. And when I first started working for myself, I didn't sort of launch straight into, right, this is going to be an agency with an hourly rate and a day rate. And I just muddled through, and I was definitely one of those people that was apologetic and constantly dropping the price and going, is that all right? And I'm also one of those people that I can't haggle either. I'm just like, when you go abroad and they're all trying, just tell me the price. I don't want to discuss price. Just tell me how much it is so I can buy it. It's a difficult conversation to have, but I've definitely got better over the years. And I think the key part of that is just understanding your value and understanding your worth and what you can bring to your clients in terms of that value. So I think just getting to grips with that and believing in that that's the key to pricing, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I found the difficult thing when I started was coming up with a figure on the value. So one of the first things I did was created this course that people could do. It was probably about 3 hours long, and there was email support to go with it, and I'd kind of recorded it all and written it all and developed it, and it took me ages to put it all together. And someone was like, so how much is it? And I'm like, I don't know, 30 quid? I don't know. What? 25 quid? But again, still like, is that okay? Is that all right?
Your price.
Yeah, exactly. So it is. It's hard to do that initial thing of right, how much, and it's one of the things I don't miss from my previous life of having a boss, because it was nice to go, right, you're going to come and do this job, this is how much you're going to get paid, and great, all right, fine, we'll have a discussion about that in 12 months, 2 years' time.
Well, there kind of is not much room, I would say, for discussion, is there, in the real world? But in business world, it can sometimes feel like it can go into haggling. But you say you'll cut your price with confidence and then just be quiet, and that's how to do it. But I always think, most of when I'm a customer, they must love me, because I just always want to say, you could charge so much more than that.
Yeah.
Which just ends up costing me a fortune then, wherever I go and all the services that I use. But, okay, so what do you wish you had known when you first started out with regards to pricing? And let's start with you, Darren, because I think you've been in business the longest, haven't you?
Well, 12 years or something like that, I think. Yeah, just over. So what was the question?
What do you wish you'd known
when you
first started out with regards to pricing?
Well, partly just how hard it is sometimes to price. I think pricing is the hardest part of running a business. You kind of think, oh, it's easy, I'll just tell them a price and get paid or something. But it's kind of, how do you price? Do you price by the hour, by the day? Do you do like a proposal and do sort of project by project as an estimate? Do you try and somehow make the pricing work by the value you're going to give the client? So, if I'm going to make a website that's going to produce 100 leads and those leads are worth 50 quid each, then is that worth, what's that worth in terms of, a price to the value of the business of the client that you're working with? So I think ultimately I've kind of gone round in circles on this and most things, but certainly on pricing. And I really like the kind of productized approach where, offering services as packages, and having a price that you've thought through in advance, and you can kind of justify to yourself why you went with that fixed price for that particular service. And then when you're talking to a client and they say, well, can you give me a discount? It's like, well, actually, no, I've thought this through. This isn't like this isn't the price off the top of my head. This is the price for that, that I've worked out based on whatever the value, whatever the input is. You worked out the price for a reason, So I quite like that approach. And I also think that helps if you're going to give a price up front. If someone says, well, I just want to get a ballpark, you can kind of give them a ballpark, and still feel confident about it. And
yeah, well, that's a great approach, because you're in a position where you can easily justify why the price is as it is, and that in itself gives you the confidence to say it and then move on.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Pete, what about you? You're the baby of the businesses in the group.
On business age, I think that's absolutely. I think physical age, I'm at least 10, 15 years older than all of you. I think it's having that confidence. I think because when I was first starting out and first speaking to people at networking things, it was that thing of, right, I don't know, 20 quid, they'll be fine. What that has created with one client is I'm still working with them 3 years later, and I'm having to kind of, and whilst, they're not getting it for 20 quid, but we've had to have that difficult thing of, okay, I was really just starting out and I just wanted clients, rather than doing what, I now know the right thing to do of, right, these are my prices. If you want them, come on board. If you don't, well, good luck having an inferior product. But because I think that's one of the things that I know, the four of us provide a service rather than a product per se. There isn't anything physical. Do you find that people are more willing to haggle because they don't perceive the value in the service you're providing? Because what I find is a lot of people think, I could do what he does.
Yeah.
And it's like, well,
web design.
Crack on, yeah.
Crack on.
I think you're right. I think I can remember that from my early days. It's 13 years this year in business for me. And what I didn't do, what I wish I'd have done when I started out, was charging for my experience before starting my business. So, I'd had 12, 13 years experience in industry. That's what I was bringing. But I felt when I started my business, I just had to, I've just started. You've got my experience from day dot. And of course, that's never the case when you go into business. You're always bringing some experience from your past.
Yeah. And the stuff that matters rather than, I can shotgun a can of Foster's. Is that worth me putting up the price a little bit, adding a bit onto the... No? Oh, okay, then fine, fair enough.
I'd pay more for that. Definitely worth it.
Good to know. All right, good to know.
So, I learned it's important to take into account, the whole cost of what it takes for you to serve your customers. The experience, all the training courses you've been on, and what it costs you from start to finish, not just the customer facing time. So that's been a good learning.
Yeah.
So Kate, what about you? What do you wish you'd known when you started out?
Yeah, well, I think similar really. We're all service-based businesses, and the difficulty with pricing that is, how long is a piece of string with certain things? And when I first started, someone would say, well, how long does it take to knock up a logo? And like, well, you could do it in 5 minutes, or you could do it in 5 days or 5 weeks. Some brands take months to pull together. But what I've learned, and the way I do things now, with the help of a lovely business coach who helped me to pull this together, is to package up the process, because really the process should be the same each time. Sometimes the amount of time to do the creative can vary, but the background research and all the digging around trying to find out what the client really needs, what they want, who their audience is, and understanding all that process should be the same each time. So I've now got a branding package which makes life so much easier. So now when somebody comes to me, just within a couple of questions I can find out, well, this would be perfect for you, here's the price, this is how you pay for it, and it's taken away all of that toing and froing about price.
And the pay.
Yeah, and I'm just like, and there's always that little asterisk at the bottom of my quotes, like, no haggling allowed, I don't like haggling. Don't try and haggle.
Yeah. No choosy beggars. That's I
love that.
About haggling, though, isn't it?
That makes my heart sing hearing about, how that whole process has become easier now. So you don't have to be kind of like, is that okay?
Yeah. Say it with confidence.
Yes. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So we may have touched on this already. So what's something that you've failed at with regards to pricing? And maybe, this is about you thinking back to those early days. We've heard about the, 20 quid in inverted commas. But Darren, what's something that you failed at with regards to pricing?
Well, I mean, usually when you ask me what I've failed at, I normally say nothing. But I think on this subject, a lot. There's a lot of things I've failed at. I think one of the things that over the 12 years that I've from time to time failed at is consistency. Start out naturally, new business, start out quite low to get the clients in. And then the prices go to a more kind of normal, natural level. And then, just over the years, there's been years where I've just dipped the price or raised the price. And it's just that lack of consistency has made it really difficult to stay on top of my own pricing, really, because there was no structure behind it as such. Now there is more structure because I've kind of got that more package-led approach. So I think, consistency has definitely been one area of failing. But also, you mentioned then about the, putting in the kind of end-to-end costs into your pricing. And one of the things that I did think about was contingency, because if you're going to have like an extension on your house or build a house, builders normally build in contingencies, don't they? 20% contingency, or you should build into your budget 20% contingency. But that's probably an area that I've failed at in the past, where I don't have a contingency. So if something does run long or go over, or the scope changes a bit, there's no contingency to kind of cover that.
There's nothing worse than having to ask for more money, is there?
Yeah. Right, people, are you listening?
Because that was mine. Because my prices, when I charge per episode, they're all based on an hour. But I've only had to start making that clear after one client who I gave him an episode fee, and he gave me 3 hours worth of incredibly dense editing to do, and it took me like 2 days to get it done properly. And it was like, okay, so I've just got an episode fee for that. So after that, it's like, okay, this just applies to 60 minutes, and that's it.
See, mine has been making assumptions about what other people can and can't afford. And I remember one client a number of years back now, I hope she's not listening, who, when she came for a consultation with me, she asked me if I could pick her up from the bus stop. And I just immediately went into, oh, no, this is not a good start. I don't think she's going to be able to afford my prices. And, the whole thing just felt really awkward. Anyway, she turned out to be a client, and she's been a wonderful client of mine. So that was a brilliant lesson for me to learn, not to make assumptions about other people and what's important to them, what they value.
Of your coaching company or your taxi company?
Yes. Yeah, for those avid listeners, I'm a business coach, not a coach driver.
I was going to ask if you hang around bus stops a lot more these days.
No, I never do. I've watched the In-Betweeners too much. I never hang around a bus stop for too long.
Love it. There was a friend of mine who is a travel agent, and again, it's that kind of making assumptions. And someone had got in touch and said, listen, I want to do this massive cruise. So they kind of booked in loads of destinations, and it was them and their partner at the time, loads of destinations, and it came out at 25 grand, this thing. I mean, they really went all in for this. And they said, so how much is that? And my friend said, it'd be about 25, I think. And they said, oh, great, okay, well, I'll transfer the money over, and fantastic, and okay. And she got the transfer through, and it was 2,500 quid they'd sent across. So she had to kind of get back in touch. And she said, I remember looking at it and thinking, is this is this a deposit? Or do they think that genuinely everything I've booked for them is £2,500? Let's go. It's a little bit off. It's just a little bit. I just need a little bit more. Going back and asking for more money. Just a little bit more money. 22.5 grand more money, my friend. So yeah, but it is that thing of being specific. Don't do that 25 and thinking they'll assume that it's 25k. You're gonna have to say that's 25,000.
Well, that's it. And I always remember, I may have shared this story with you before, but when I worked for the corporate company I worked for before, we had a great sales trainer in, and she had us go round the room saying, that will be £1 million, please. Just like completely deadpan and like it was the most ordinary thing for us to say. And, you know, we always like howling with laughter and thinking this is ridiculous, but it stayed with me for 20 years. And that is how you share the price. That will be £1 million, please.
Isn't that like a weekly shop in Waitrose?
Yeah.
That will be one. Are they all cashiers in Waitrose now? That will be £1 million, please.
So, Kate, what have you failed at, my dear?
Well, I continue to sort of make pricing blunders as I think that everybody does really. But I've gone sort of one way, you know, where we were talking about pricing ourselves too cheap, and then I've gone the other way as well. And you know, you sometimes you'll send a quote off. This is more for the bespoke projects really, and you send a quote off, and then you'll spend the next 2 hours going, "Oh, this is going to be brilliant," and then 2 hours goes by with no response. Like, "Oh no, I think I messed it up. I've gone in far too high," and then you just beat yourself up over it. It's really difficult, but I just think it's really important to just have open conversations and, you know, pick up the phone and go, "Look, that." If that is too much, maybe there's ways we can change the scope of the project to make it more within reach for you. You know, it's just having those conversations. But the longer you leave it, the more you panic about it and go, "Oh, I'm absolutely frightened them off with my quotation." And then, of course, there's the other way. You know, when I first started out, and I remember when I was, you know, people were coming up to me, "You're just desperate for anything, any work." And then, you know, somebody says, "Oh, I could do with a logo." Like, "Brilliant, yes, I'll do it straight away. Yes, how's £25 sound? I'll be all right. You know, forget that. Just buy me a bottle of wine. No, actually, I'll buy you a bottle of wine. I'll do that and I'll buy you wine." And you're just so desperate for it. But obviously I've got a bit beyond that now, but still finding my way with it, really. It's very difficult to get it perfect, especially with a service-led business. Continuing to learn, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'll buy you a bottle of wine. I love that.
You look Blossom Hill or something. So.
Oh, yeah, nothing good. Nothing decent.
Oh, no, do you not like Blossom Hill? No, sorry. Three bottles.
Well, because that's the thing. I really have to stop myself after, you know, just a few hours emailing them going, "Is everything all right with that?" Yeah. Because it is, listen, they've got to, if they think there's a problem, they're going to come back to you if they're reasonable. And if they never, I mean, I don't know, I'll put this out as a question. Is there a time period, if they've never come back to you, do you go back to them and go, "Was everything all right with that quote," or what? Or do you just kind of put the quote and go, "Listen, if you want it, come. If you're not, no."
Put the quote out and say, "When would be good to call you to discuss and answer any questions that you will have? Let's put a time in the diary right now. When's good for you? Next Tuesday or next Thursday?"
Nice. Right, I'm writing that down. Making a note of that. Yeah. And is that where I offer the free wine, or is that on that phone call?
I'm sure so many business owners will recognise themselves in Kate's story of, you know, ending that like initial meeting with like brimming with confidence, and within 2 hours going, "Oh," and just like all the demons start coming in.
Yeah, it's awful.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, what should I have asked you about that I didn't with regards to pricing? And the first question that came to my mind is, what do your services cost, guys? So what should I have asked you about?
I don't think there's a simple answer. I almost don't like that there's not a simple answer when people say, how much does it cost? Because my answer is always, well, it depends. What do you want?
Yeah.
You know, and again, I've been so used to, you know, what do you cost? I cost this.
Yeah.
That's the fee and that's it. To now going, I don't know, what do you want? You know, and it is that's the thing about pricing that, you know, I don't think people appreciate as well.
No, you're spot on. It's really easy as a startup to go into solution mode when you don't even know what the problems are. Find out the problems first, then offer the solution.
Yeah.
So, Darren, what should I have asked you that I didn't?
Well, I mean, in regards to that question about, you know, how much do you charge, or how much is the website, which is the question I often get asked. I did want to kind of say that you gave me the solution to that by putting together like a process, really. So whoever calls, you know, in the call, when they email, they go into a process, and that process isn't just a simple, well, it's going to cost you this much. It's more a question of asking the questions. So I sort of counter their question of how much is a website with questions about, you know, what they need, what their problems are, etc., and send them into that route. And then I've kind of got a good idea of where I'm going to be taking them and which price point they're at, really. So it's the question of someone saying how much does the website cost is kind of the same as me saying, well, how much is your budget? You know, it's kind of, do they want to say? Do they? You know?
Yeah, I'm sure it's every business owner's, probably it's their most feared question, because unless you've got a product that is, you know, £30 and that's what it costs, then, you know, you can't give that answer. And I know a lot of people fear that going to networking as well. So let's take away that fear and go into the, you know, asking the questions first. Kate, what about you? What should I have asked you?
You didn't ask me how much.
No.
I think that one of the things that we probably haven't quite touched on is if people aren't happy with the pricing, how do you cope with that? How do you deal with that? And one thing that's sort of come about over the last sort of couple of years, a great way to deal with that is to just bring some value add. Like don't just drop your price. You need to stick to your guns on your pricing. But you can add things into it, to the scope of the project, that make them feel they're getting a lot of extra value, even though it's not actually a huge amount of effort for you. And that can really help to keep people happy without feeling like you're constantly slashing your prices and things. So that's quite a useful bit of advice I've got to, you know, over the years, implement that a little bit. And that seems to work quite well.
Totally agree, and that brings me on to the next question, which is, you know, what are you taking away from our conversation today? And what I wanted to share was to deal with pricing head on, because everybody has got some sort of financial belief system, whether it's a hang up or how much something's worth or what they're willing to pay for something. So, you know, deal with that elephant in the room. When you share the price, you know, share the values and benefits, like you said, Kate, and then, you know, ask them if they were going to go ahead, which, you know, would they like to, and then just be quiet and let them do the talking so that you can handle those objections.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think generally people are sold on you as a person before they even get to the price usually. And then the price shouldn't really matter because they know already what they're going to be getting from you.
Yeah, agreed. What about you, Pete?
Yeah, I think it is that thing of being kind of firm on your price and, like you say, letting them do the talking. So you say, that'll be £1 million, please. And that, in which I'm going to put on a T-shirt or something now, because I love that. But let them kind of respond to that rather than, you know, me kind of say, you know, that'll be £1 million, please, or would it be better to be £500,000, 400, 300, 200,
£999,999?
Yeah.
Exactly.
It sounds better to knock a penny off.
It does.
Darren, what are you taking away from our conversation today?
Well, I think I like what you were saying in terms of about assuming, making assumptions on what the client can and can't afford, and then trying to on the fly adapt your price accordingly. That's dangerous territory. I think if someone who's dressed up in a posh suit and drives a fancy car doesn't mean they're going to spend loads of money. And I mean, I had that when I worked with a particular hotel down in London that was of some notoriety. They didn't choose the proposal that we put in because we were the cheapest, but we were certainly a lot cheaper than a lot of the quotes that we were competing against. That just assumed because they're fancy pants 5-star restaurant, they're going to afford a 5-star hotel. Rather, they're going to afford to spend tens and tens of thousands on a website. It's making that assumption and making sure you don't kind of sort of change on the hoof just because you think someone can or can't afford what it is you're providing. I mean, of course, the service that you provide will give them more income, and they can afford more, really. So I suppose that's
And ultimately, let's remember that we don't want to be working with everybody. You in business, you can't be everything to everybody all of the time. It's about, selecting your clients, your customer base, very carefully so that you're not dealing with complaints all the time, about you're too expensive or this product's too rubbish, it's not worked, Let's be selective, and that way we can attract more of the people that we want to be working with.
Exactly.
Okay, guys, thank you for your input and sharing today on pricing. And for those listening, please share, subscribe and review so fellow business owners can enjoy, be inspired, and always keep focused on the fun side of business too. Thanks for listening.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.